Hey, what's up guys, Aaron Darko here, and in today's video I'm with Medhi from StrongLifts, and we're going to talk about everything about training and the mental attitude you need to succeed and get in the body you want. Let's go. Hey, what's up guys, Aaron Darko here, founder of Alpha Trading, back with another interview for you. And today it's my honor to be with Mr. Medhi Hadim from StrongLifts.com. Now Medhi is the guy that popularized the concept of 5x5 barbell training, primarily squats, deadlifts, and military press, all the barbell exercises. This guy is one of the front runners for that, and he's been a successful entrepreneur for the last 11 years and counting, and he's got one of the most famous apps in the fitness space, which is for StrongLifts, right? It's for the bench press, squat, deadlifts, and it's on Android and also iPhone. And Medhi is just an amazing guy. We met a few years ago now in Korea, right? Years ago. And it's just a really good honor to be here with you. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Adam. Thank you.
So Medhi, can you tell us about how you got started in working out? Like, what was it that inspired you to start working out?
It was embarrassment. That was kind of like what made me start.
Yeah.
I started out when I was 15. The story was we were at school, and everybody started to do arm wrestling, and then it was my turn, and I lost against everybody basically. And then there was a girl who came up, and I lost against her as well, which was, for a guy, there's still like these stereotypes of a man is supposed to be strong. So like I was made fun of in front of everybody. So that was like huge embarrassment. And then it didn't end there, because we started doing push-ups, and then when it was my turn, I couldn't do one rep, and that same girl, she could, and so they really made fun of me, like, oh, you're weaker than a girl, all that kind of stuff. And one of my friends back then, he was able to do a lot of push-ups, and so I asked him, hey man, how can you do so many push-ups? What's your secret? Because I can do one rep.
Yeah.
And he told me that he played tennis, some competitive tennis and stuff, and he told me that every day he would come home and do push-ups. And I'm like, okay, every day I would come home and start doing push-ups. So I started doing that, and the first couple of times I couldn't do even one rep. I had to do them on my knees and stuff. But I think like when I get into something, I can get like very how to say this, like addicted or very like determined about getting good at it if I put my mind on it. And so I started doing the push-ups every day, and like 3 years later, I could do, if I remember well, like 70 reps in a row.
Damn.
Which was like on my knuckles and stuff. Like I would do it every day, like even I would go out to a party and stuff, and I would come home and do it before I went to bed. And one of the things that I noticed is that suddenly, like, I was also getting more attention from girls and stuff. So like I made the logical conclusion, like the leap of, well, if just with this I'm getting more attention, well, if I would go to the gym and train even in a proper way, that would get even more attention. So that was like the logical next step. So that's how I got into lifting weights. I think that was like 3 years later, when I was 18 or something. Then I started going to the gym. Yeah.
Wow, so you started getting attention from the girls, that made it an addiction. But you're already addicted at that point, right? You were already doing 70 push-ups, because that was your motivation.
Yeah. So it was kind of like, okay, what do I do next? Because the problem with bodyweight exercise. So remember, like I'm talking about 1996. I started. So there was no information. So I just did every day. I tried to do more push-ups and more. And at one point, like you just cap out, and I had no idea how do you program it, like. So I was just trying to do more and more reps, and the limit seemed to be like 70 reps in a row. I couldn't do more. I didn't do sets of reps or whatever, because I had no idea. I didn't try like harder versions, because I didn't have the information. So the next logical step for me was to go to a gym and get a. And the other thing also is that unlike most guys, I actually wanted to train my legs. Because I only had trained I had gained, because I was very skinny and like a skinny fat type when I started out, like very skinny arms and stuff, but a little bit of a belly, and so especially my chest and shoulder got bigger from doing the push-ups so much. but then the legs stayed, there's nothing that changed there. So I wanted to go to the gym to actually train and I did from the very beginning. I was training my legs. Oh, the cat is coming. So from the very beginning, I was actually training my legs, and like most people, yeah.
That's funny. So you started going to the gym because you lost the arm wrestling contest with a girl, right?
Yeah.
You started working out. You started doing push-ups. Then you're like, oh shit, I need to work my legs, right? So
I didn't know that there was squats. So I had no idea squats or stuff. So I had no idea that you could do bodyweight squats.
So how did you then come up with the idea? Oh, let me just do StrongLifts. How did that come about?
So the whole idea of like doing 5 sets of 5 reps and only like 3 basic exercises per workout, that was actually after 5 years of training. Because when I started out, again, limited information. So my source of information was muscle magazines and the guys in the gym who, I'm sure like most guys of the gym, they're like a lot of them are not training naturally. So you would get advice from people who they're getting results not because of what they do, but despite what they do. But I don't know this, so I remember this one guy. He was. Years later, I would discover like he was taking a lot, and I just, he was big, so I'm like, well, he must know what he's talking about. So I follow everything that he says. Years later, so it was like the typical thing, split routine, 1 muscle a day, 10 exercises, like 5 sets of 8, 2 hours, 2 hours 30 in the gym, and it would be like, and everything until failure with the first reps, and it was very painful. And I did that for 5 years. And when I started, I was a student. So, as a student, you get a lot of time because the schedule is not busy. But then when I made the transition to starting to work, I worked in a big corporate company in Belgium. Suddenly I had like these shifts that I had to deal with, and I had, a 2 hours commute, 2 hours 30 commute. And so there was not the time anymore to do these long trainings. And quite frankly, like after 5 years of doing this, like mentally I was burned out because it was very painful. Now I was getting results with it, but I had a lot of injuries, and I didn't enjoy the training anymore, and I kind of felt like I had no life because I was all the time in the gym. Like the schedule was coming home at like 10 p.m. Like work until 7, coming home at 10 p.m. and then I still had to cook and the whole thing because you have to cook your own food because the food at work is not good, of course. And then by the time I was finished, it was 10:30, and I basically had half an hour, and then I had to go to bed to get my 8 hours of sleep to get up at 7. So you get no life there. So like, what's the point of all the training if you can't do anything with it? And so that's kind of like what was okay. What can I do there? But I didn't know another way of training. So there was only this way of training that I knew. Only like split routines, 1 muscle a day. I didn't know anything else. And so I started doing research, and then that's how I stumbled on the 5x5 stuff. Yeah.
So what is the 5x5 for those that don't know?
So I would say like so what it is basically you're only doing compound exercises. So you don't do any isolation exercises. Like the focus on compound exercises. So that means the big lifts, squats, bench press, deadlift, overhead press, barbell row, but especially the squat, the bench, and the deadlift. Those are like the main focus. And the idea is that instead of focusing on, so for 5 years my focus, like what I thought was important was to train a muscle until failure and to to break it down and so then it rebuilds the next day, and you had to train the muscle directly. So I thought that's what you need to do to get results. And so it was a lot of training until failure, a lot of training, and like if it's sore, then whoa, it must be a good workout. We would call each other, hey, are you sore? Man, I'm so sore. That's what we thought is progress, which it's not that, of course. It doesn't mean anything. And so when I stumbled on the 5x5 thing, it was like everything was the opposite. So first of all, there was no isolation. So I'm like, what the hell? I'm gonna like lose my arms, like. Because I worked so hard to get those arms and stuff, so where's the biceps stuff here? So there was no isolation, so I'm like, well, this can't work. And then only 3 exercises, doesn't make any sense either. I was doing 10 exercises for legs. it would take like 2 hours 30, I was sore for a week. Yeah. And then here, like, this program was like, so first of all, it was only 3 exercises, and then I was supposed to squat 3 times a week, where I'm like, wait, squat 3 times a week? I'm sore for a week when I do squats, and you want me to do it again, like 2 days later? So a lot of the things was like counterintuitive, like so little exercises. There is no failure training. There is no you're not getting pumped. So there's not like the thing of trying to chase pump. So a lot of the things were counterintuitive, basically. So it actually took a year between the time I found it and the time I tried it, because I just dismissed this at first.
Right.
I was like, well, this can't work, this is bullshit. But so for a year I continued, even though I was looking for a way out, and I was looking for doing something else. But I was too skeptical.
That's interesting. So you touched on a few things there we want to cover in this interview, which is this interview is mostly about working out and the mindset around it. So we're going to talk both about the ways to work out and also the mindset you need to succeed. So one of the things is you mentioned that taking the muscle to failure is not the right thing to do. So it's just one form of training. So could you elaborate on that? And this is further proof of why 5x5 works. So listen up for the answer, guys.
So your question is, why doesn't failure training work?
Yeah.
So from my experience, and I mean, there's a lot of ways to do failure training, but like I'm talking about the specific scenario where every workout, every week, every workout, every exercise, every set, you're training it to failure. So I'm talking about failure like failure where like you cannot do one more rep on that set, and you're asking so I had a training buddy for all those years, and he would, for example, on a curl, like I cannot lift it anymore, and he would come in and take my arm and help me lift it, and then I would control it, like do a negative basically, and then he would help me do another, because we had to do the 8 reps. So if I would fail on the 5 reps, he would help me to do another 3 reps. So the problem is that it gets you very sore, which, I mean, that was our goal because we thought that's the thing. But it's very hard on the recovery. So for me, I think I was in a constant state of overtraining, which is probably explains why I was just mentally like done with it after so many years. Because it's very painful when you do it. It's very hard to recover from. And you would have these strange weeks where like suddenly it's like 20 kilo less than what you can lift on the bench press. Like you just can't lift. I mean, the recovery is just not happening. So I think that was like some of the problems with it. I would say that in the long run, it's just the fact that it's so hard mentally on you that is just not, to me, that doesn't make it like a thing that you should be doing long term, because you're not enjoying it anymore. It's too painful.
Yeah. Isn't it also easier to plateau when you're training like that?
Yeah, because I mean, how do you? Since the goal is now you got to get pumped, you got to get sore, and so the way you're gonna do it is to do failure training. I mean, that's not an objective way to measure results, and so I mean, if you compare it with the 5x5, like you just look at the weight on the bar. That's it. So that's one thing that. In the beginning I didn't realize, but now because I've been training purely with the focus on strength for so long, you just look at how much weight am I lifting, and if you can lift it, well, you're making progress. If you cannot lift it, or if your strength goes down for a little while, well, now you know that the training is not working for whatever reason. You're doing too much, you're not doing enough, I don't know what it is, you're not being consistent, but you can just look at that and find out. And it's very difficult with when you're like focused on the aspect of failure training, I think.
So 5x5. By now you guys will understand what 5x5 is. Okay, so it's the barbell training, 5x5, 3 exercises, 3 times a week, right? Very, very simple. And so let's talk about, how many people first of all, you've taught a lot of people 5x5, right? And out of all these people you've helped, all these success stories that you have, what is the number one mistake you see that people make?
You mean in training in general before you find me, or do you mean when they do 5x5?
When they do your program, like all the people that you see and come through your program, what's the number one mistake?
Actually, I want to give the same mistake because I think the same mistake. I think in general what people do is they overcomplicate things. Mm-hmm. They want to make things, and I myself was like this, because when I find this 5x5 thing, I'm like, this is too simple, this cannot work, because it's too simple. And I think we have some kind of bias as guys, where we think that this thing has to be complex. And so common mistakes which I did when I started the 5x5 stuff was adding stuff to it. So this cannot work with just 3 exercises. So I would I would just do all exercises in one day.
Yeah.
And this works for a while in the beginning, because when you start out the weights are light, but when you quickly discover that it just doesn't work, like you cannot do like a squat, a bench, a deadlift, and then another overhead press and rows, and then start like doing like all this kind of isolation. Because I mean, some guys, they end up doing like 10 exercises in one workout, and the only way you're gonna be able to do this is if you start like training light instead of training heavy, which I call like, you know, you focus on now the quantity instead of the quality. And I said that defeats the purpose, because the idea is that you're focused on increasing your strength, but now you cannot do it because you're doing too much.
Right.
I mean, personally, after my squats, I'm usually already done if I do them heavy. So I'm kind of happy to only do like 2-3 exercises per workout, maybe 4. Like I never really do more than 4 exercises per workout anymore. But the thing is, like, the people who start out, they don't get it because they're not lifting heavy yet. They have to get there.
Right.
So when you explain it, like they don't have the experience yet. And so a lot of people, what they do is they start out, they do a lot, and then, I mean, some of them, they end up quitting because they can't keep up with it. And others, they kind of wake up after a while and they realize, okay, this is too much, and they start doing less. And they understand now when I'm saying, you know, you shouldn't do so much. So overcomplicating it is one. Adding too many things, that's like the main form of like another thing is rushing it, which that's also something I did, and something that I tend to do still. It's like you're starting a new program and they're telling you, you know, make like the first 2-3 weeks easy, so you kind of like get used to things. And especially for a guy who starts out, you need to learn the technique first. Like if you never did squats or deadlifts in your life, like you need to learn the technique first. But what a lot of guys do, they start like immediately heavy. I mean, the stupidest thing you can do is start with your max. Like you start your max in day 1, but like 2 days later you have to add 5 points on the bar. Like you have to add 2.5 kilos. How are you gonna do that if you start with your max? So like some guys, they start with their max. So first of all, they get sore. Second of all, because they get sore, they already have to miss the next workout because they cannot walk. And they're like, how am I supposed to squat? And then they start failing reps on the next workout. And then they're like emailing, you know, this is not working. Well, I said start light. So I mean, I didn't invent the 5x5 stuff, so it's not my thing. It's like from the research I've done, like this thing goes back until the 1930s. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger did like something similar. He had it from Rich Park, his mentor back in the 50s, who wrote the first book about it. So this thing goes at least back to the 30s. Who knows who did it before that? So it's kind of like almost 100 years old. And yeah, I lost my train of thought there.
Yeah. So that you basically answered my question. So, yeah. So people just overcomplicate things, right? They just overcomplicate it. They think, oh, it can't be that simple. So they just add more things, and then they fail because they're not following the system.
Yeah.
So essentially, it's about following the process, right, and trusting in the process.
Well, you have kind of like several approaches. So one approach is like trial and error. If you do it your way, and you make mistakes and you learn from it, that is one approach. And another approach, which is a faster approach, which is what you usually get if you have a coach, is that you are following what somebody else who has already gone through it, either himself or with people. You follow what he says so that you don't make all these mistakes, and then you're going to get results faster. So personally, I didn't have information available, I didn't have good information available, I didn't have a coach available, so I wasted a lot of time trying to do things, I followed the trial and error to learn a lot of these things, unfortunately. So I wasted a ton of time, and also got injuries and all that kind of stuff. So if you look, for example, my little brother, when he started training with me, he went in 7 months, just with 3 exercises per week, 3 times a week. He went from like never lifting weights to squatting 300 pounds in 7 months, which there's people who, I mean, that's in 7 months. There's people, they train 7 years, they cannot do this. And so he's not a beginner, despite like training 7 months, he's already like at an intermediate level. And the reason for this is not that, you know, he's super talented or whatever, because he had like huge flexibility issues and all that kind of stuff. So he could actually have gone faster. But he didn't make all the mistakes, because I was there to tell him, no, you don't do this, you don't do this, and he just listened and he did it. And so he got strong very fast. But the problem is, a lot of guys, they don't want to listen. They don't want to do their way. and because they think they know better, which is kind of like, I think, an ego thing. And so yeah, they have to learn it the hard way by making those mistakes and all that kind of stuff. Because I mean, you gotta admit at one point that you don't have the knowledge. It's not your domain of expertise. Like, I'm not a programmer, so I don't go inside the StrongLifts app and change the code, because I would create a mess. Like, I leave that to my programmers to do that, something like this. But with fitness, I think everybody thinks they're an expert, and because they heard it all on TV and in the magazines, and they think they know it all. I had these two friends, I remember. I had these two friends, and they were gonna start to go to the gym, and they knew what I was doing. And one of the guys told me he was gonna start this program, and I'm like, okay, and he describes me this program, and immediately, like, I'm thinking, this is bullshit, your program. And I'm like, where do you get the program? And he's like, oh, so the other guy made it. And I'm like, he made it? But he doesn't lift weights. Like he literally doesn't lift weights. So how did he make it? I mean, this is stupid when you think about it. This is very stupid. Like, it's kind of like, I'm gonna build a house. Oh, okay. And yeah, and my friend made a plan. Is he an architect? No, he just wrote it on a... This is stupid. So, but that's what people are doing. And then, of course, when it doesn't work, then they're like, huh. And a lot of people, they end up spending a huge... Because you also have this problem of, like, no pain, no gain in the fitness industry, where people have this thing like, it has to hurt and it has to be painful.
Yes.
And definitely you have to work hard, that's for sure. And if you work harder, you're going to get better results. But we have these things where some people, it's clearly an injury that they're dealing with, and they will keep going through it, or they're doing like this very hard, like the failure training, for example. That's like pure no pain, no gain. Like, it hurts a lot, but I'm gonna push through it, and even get some like ego satisfaction from it, from doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's funny you touch on these points. You remind me of some questions that I didn't even have planned, which is, a lot of guys have these egos. And what I've seen in my clients is, people that are not clients yet, but they want to become a client, they want to learn from me and stuff. Even they understand the philosophy. What they do is they go and think, oh, well, I can just do this instead of, or, can I substitute this? And, it's just like, no, you just follow the plan, right? And also, it's, these quote unquote trainers out there, like other trainers, they confuse their clients. So every week their client's expecting a new workout, like a different type of workout, because in the client's mind they're thinking, oh, if I do this different type of workout, then I'm going to get the results. Every week it needs to be new, right? They can't just follow, for example, StrongLifts or my program. Like, they can't just follow the program, because every week they need to confuse their muscles. What do you think about all these people that believe they need to confuse their muscles?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's obviously bullshit, but there is a thing like, so there is like personality types, from what I understand, with some people, they get bored more quickly from doing the same thing all the time. Like, I don't have this problem, so I have no problem, and in some areas of my life that's a disadvantage, but I have no problem like eating the same foods every day and doing the same exercises every day and doing the same kind of workout program every day. I don't have any problems with it. Like, I don't get bored, because I get more like a satisfaction from like the process itself of, like, for example, technique refinements. I get like a lot of satisfaction from that, and also like the process of you do that stuff and it does lead to result. But it seems like some people, they have this need for variety. Like, they need to switch things up all the time, because it's kind of like mentally they just can't deal with it. Now this can be solved if you do a 5x5. It's just like you do the 3 exercises, the main ones all the time, on which they will get bored on eventually. But then you get the variety by doing some assistance work. Like, whatever you feel a need to do it, like do one exercise like this at the end, so that you still get a variety. So that's on the customer side. And I think on the personal training, the problem is, it's a very competitive market. It's there's a lot of money to earn in the fitness industry, and everybody is out there trying to get his name out. And so, what else is there to say? You gotta squat, you gotta eat properly, what else is there to say? There's nothing new anymore. So making the client dependent on you and hoping that he doesn't get too smart so that he keeps needing you, because in the end this thing is so simple. So I understand that some personal trainers maybe they want to follow that approach because they have to make money as well, of course. So maybe that explains there what's going on there.
But do you think that kind of training is hurting the client?
Well, whatever they can stick to, I would say they should be doing. So, there's some kinds of training that I really like lifting weights, but some people, they don't like lifting weights. And so maybe they've come on my website and they try it and they really just don't like lifting weights. So, if you like cycling, go cycling. You don't have to. Now, of course, if you want to be really strong and you want to be really, really having a lot of muscle mass, you will have to lift weights. There's nothing else that works better, not dumbbells, not kettlebell, because you need the maximum weight and stuff there. So if that is really your goal, but if you're like, and some people don't have these goals, some people they just like, they want to get fit, but you don't have to go to the gym, like you can go cycling or running or whatever. If there's something else you like, do that instead, because in the end you have to be able to stick to it.
Yep.
Now that said, it's not like I started lifting weights and it was immediately like I liked it. Somehow, kind of fell in love with the whole thing, it seems like.
Yeah, so we got a few more questions, but first of all, let's talk about weights, right? Because you mentioned, you got to have heavy weights. So what do you think about lifting heavy? Because there's a lot of people out there who think that, I know this is a myth, right? They think that lifting light weights for high reps is how you get ripped. It's how you get strong, right? So why do you believe in lifting heavy weights?
So let's just like start with the other angle first, which is there's an assumption that people make that if you're very muscular, that you must be very strong as well. So I have another story like this, which so I was training for 5 years at that point. I wasn't doing strength training yet. I was still doing like the split routine stuff, and I was kind of like another one of these events that led me to eventually change my training and start to and eventually start 5x5. By the way, I should explain it. So I'm actually not doing 5x5 myself, of course, because this is a beginner program which you're supposed to do for like 3 months or 9 months, and then you switch to an intermediate program. So I did 5x5 in the beginning. If I would stop training for a year, that's what I would do to get into it. But I'm of course I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it now, so it's not like that's the only training that I know of. Like what I'm selling is compound exercises focused on strength with a lot of squats and bench and deadlift. That's what I'm selling. So sorry, your question?
So I was talking about why you like heavy weights, why you believe that's the best way.
So that's the story. So with so I was doing like the split routine for a long time, and so I had muscle from doing this, 5 times a week, 2 hours in the gym for like 5 years. If you're not getting results, something is wrong. So I was I had results with this, and we went on a holiday with several of my friends, with 2 of my friends, and we went to Turkey, and there was these guys there. They saw us, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you guys, you have a lot of muscle. Come on." Because it's a thing in Turkey, like they have like this arm wrestling thing. So I did the arm wrestling, like that was, I have the arm wrestling origin story, or that's how I got started. So I do the arm wrestling there several years later, after all the push-ups and after all the split training. And I end up losing. And my friends also, they all lose. And we were like, what the fuck? We are like 5 times per week in the gym, training hard, we have no strength. Now, you can make an argument there that it's not specific what we are doing. So we were doing, of course, bodybuilding time training, like purely based on aesthetic and not really focused on strength. So that's, of course, one reason for this. Also that, these guys, of course, they do a lot of arm wrestling, we didn't. So there's the specificity there as well. But my point with it is that there is an assumption that if you have a lot of muscle, that you also have to be strong. And when that is not the case, it's kind of like you're made fun of. Now, and there you also can make the case like I don't care what people think of me and the whole thing. But the origins of bodybuilding were actually that the first bodybuilding competitions, people had to perform feats of strength. That was like part of it. Now, of course, Mr. Olympia, there's no feats of strength anymore. That has been totally removed. It's more like a pageant contest nowadays. So it's purely like aesthetics. But I think like the idea of like just building muscle with totally ignoring strength is just wrong. That's my first answer to this.
Yeah, because there's, like I talk about a lot, is you can either train to be strong or you can train to have what I call mirror muscles. They're muscles that look good in the mirror, but
You cannot do anything.
You can't do anything with them. Like for example, I do like a rope climb, like with no legs. Like those guys who are training for strictly aesthetics, they can't do that because they're just doing curls all day and they don't actually have real strength. So yeah. So going back to my original question. So okay, I guess I should rephrase it. So why do you think lifting heavy weights is superior to other weight training methods in terms of building strength from a beginner level?
So I don't like going into the scientific stuff and the whole thing. So let's just talk about this simple, because if you talk about it simple, so if the weight is heavier, your muscle is gonna have to work harder to lift it. So the contraction is gonna get harder. So that by itself explains why a heavy weight would be superior to a lightweight. It's just because the weight is heavier, the muscles are gonna have to work harder to lift it up. Now, sometimes there's guys saying, yeah, but it's all like your nervous system, or it's all momentum, or what. Yeah, the muscle is under it. It's like extending your hips, and like on a squat, for example, your legs have to straighten. That's muscle action, and those muscles have to work harder when they're 200 pounds on a bar than when there's 100 pounds on the bar. So that's a simple explanation for it. Now you can take the other approach of saying, yeah, but if there's higher reps, you are gonna feel more pump. That doesn't mean anything. Or you're gonna feel more burn. That doesn't mean anything. I mean, how do you quantify that stuff even? Like, that if you are able to do 100 pounds, like 10 pounds more than last time, well, the muscles are working harder than last time. That's easy. Like, that's easy to quantify. How do you do that with soreness? How do you do that with like subjective stuff like pump? Do you remember how much pump you had? I mean, I use RPEs in my training, so rate of perceived effort. I use that, but most people cannot use that. So, because they just, was it easy or hard? You ask them after a set, was that easy or hard? Like, they don't know. They just say, well, yeah, it's hard. Like, everything is hard.
Right.
We did. I had this genius idea, which turns out like to be terrible, to put in the app. We have a timer inside the app, and so depending on what you did on the last set, it tells you how long to rest before you do the next set. And so I wanted to add auto-regulation there, where if the set was hard, the timer would tell them to wait longer, and if the set was easy, it would tell them to wait less. And so the way I was going to do this is we were going to add a question, hey, was it easy or hard? And depending on their answer, the timer would wait longer or less. Genius idea, I thought. And so we release it, and turns out people hate it. They're like, put it back. What is this stuff? Don't ask me if it's easy or hard. Everything is hard. Everything is hard. And I'm dealing with a population of mostly beginners training, some intermediates, but mostly beginners. I'm not dealing with advanced or elite lifters. And advanced and elite lifters, they know the difference between this is an easy set or a hard set. But people who start out, they have no idea. It's all just hard. So here, like, how are you gonna then, if you're using things like pump or what else you have, like, how much I'm sweating? Some people, they do that. They do like the superset, giant set stuff, and they think, oh, I'm out of breath, I'm sweating, so I'm working. Yeah, it's all bullshit. Just add weight on the bar. It's much easier to see how you're progressing.
Yeah. So do you think the biggest reason why people don't see results when they work out, when they go to the gym, because there's so many people that they go to the gym 3 to 5 to 6 times a week, and they've been going to the gym for months, but they're still not seeing any results? It's because they're doing all this stuff, right? They're trying to measure their progress by how much pump they got, or how many drop sets they did, or all these kind of stuff.
But
instead of
progressing,
instead of like actually measuring, like for example, did you add weight to the bar? For example, how many more reps did you do this week?
Yeah, and that's an argument also for stop doing the muscle confusion where you're changing exercises and program all the time, because you cannot measure things like this. Like if I don't do, so I was doing.
This guy won't stop.
Yeah. So I didn't do. So I did front squats this month, and I hadn't done front squat for like 6 months or something. And so, of course, the first time I did front squats, I was much weaker than the last time I did. But then the second week, because I had done them the week before now, and the practice already set in, and again, like it was immediately like I had like 10-20 kilos more on the barbell. And so this is what happens, like you're changing exercise all the time. Like just because you have you're losing some technique, when you stop doing it, and then you regain the technique when you start again. So it's very hard to know, is the strength loss or strength gain related to actual muscle gain, muscle strength that I'm adding, or is it just because I'm not doing the exercise for a while? Like you just don't know. So yeah, that makes it hard to measure how you're progressing.
What about joints? Because the reason why I'm asking you these questions is not for me, it's for people watching, because there's a lot of myths out there, and the fitness industry is full of nonsense, right? So for example, there's lots of people that argue that if you lift heavy weights, as you get older, your joints are going to, they're going to take the brunt of all that weight and they're not going to work for you anymore, all these kind of things. So what do you have to say to people that think that lifting heavy weights is going to mess up their joints?
Yeah, I want to say I've been lifting for 20 years myself, and my situation is not the situation of everybody else, of course, but I've been lifting weights for 20 years myself. I've had injuries, but nothing, worse. I'm now almost 40, and I'm in great shape. I'm doing what I'm telling people to do with much heavier weight than most people will do, and my joints are like, the way this works is that the joint itself is, of course, like the tendons are getting stronger from, like, everything that's under the barbell. When you do a squat, for example, is going to get stronger. So that includes, of course, the muscle, which they want to get bigger. That includes the bones, like you're getting increased bone density. But the tendons, of course, it's not like the muscle are getting stronger and the tendons just stay like this. The tendons are also getting stronger. Now the support that the muscle that are getting stronger are adding support to the joint, so the joint stability is increasing because of the muscles around it are getting stronger. So yeah, I have a lot of emails from people who told me I don't want to sound like it's miracles here happening or whatever, but I get emails like this a lot from people who said they were like walking with a limp and stuff for several years, and they started squatting, and now they're fine, or like they had knee supports that they were using for a long time when running or whatever, and then they're fine. So it's because of this. Because a lot of people, when they have joint pain, they start getting in avoidance, where they're kind of like, starting to use the other leg more, and this basically makes that side that has joint problems like weaker and weaker over time. And here it's like the opposite approach. Okay, we're gonna start very light, of course, with a very, very light weight. We're not gonna start heavy, that's for later. You start very light. You're using very good technique. That's especially if you have joint pain or joint, injury history or whatever. And I'm not a doctor, but you start very light. If it hurts, you stop doing it. If it hurts very little, like maybe a 3 on a scale of 1 to 10, then you try to push a little bit. Like, some discomfort is okay, and you just keep going. And a lot of people, they discover, I had knee pain and my knees are feeling better. Some people tell me when they stop lifting, their knee feel worse. So we get that kind of stuff. But the main thing is to, you gotta have good technique. That's the main thing, because a lot of people are not lifting with good technique. And like when I got injured a lot, like early on, and it was because I didn't have information available. I didn't have a coach tell me, hey, here's how you squat, how you deadlift. So I had no idea. I made a lot of mistakes. Even like videotaping yourself was not easy back then. You didn't have like digital cameras like now. So even like to understand what are you doing, like you couldn't really see it. You only had a mirror, so you couldn't videotape yourself to review your technique. That was difficult. Now today, you gotta use the proper technique, which is you gotta do the reading, you gotta study this thing. You gotta get a coach, which is, this is all a lot of work, but if you do this, compare it to, getting surgery or whatever. If you could heal it naturally, compare it to like having a surgery or something like this.
So the key is really all those people that think that your joints are going to get messed up if you do heavy weights. They're the ones that are not training, maybe with the right technique.
Well, I think a lot of people did hurt their joints from doing squats and deadlifts. And from doing bench and all that kind of stuff. But again, because you said when you get older, so I suppose maybe it's people who are old now and who say, hey, I got old and I did lifting when I was younger, and now I'm old and I'm full of injuries. But how old is he? Is he 50? So he started lifting weights when, like 20, 30 years ago, like when I started. The information wasn't there.
Yep.
So the chance that he did it with proper technique. I mean, even today, there's so much information, and you don't see so many people who are really able to do it with proper technique. So, it's kind of, I mean, the guy there is with a hammer. Like, if he hits his stump with the hammer, it's not the hammer's fault. Like, he's using a tool in an improper way. So it's not like the heavy weights there's definitely an increased risk when you're using heavier weights, but most guys are not gonna lift so heavy because most guys are not interested in being like extremely strong. They just want to be like having a better shape, like having a better body and being fit. So they're not gonna really push it to a level where I have pushed it, and I haven't pushed it like to a super high level. There's people who are like way competitive and stuff. They're lifting way more. But my point is that most people are not really lifted to a level where the risk really becomes higher from lifting heavy weights. Like to put numbers on it, I think most guys are kind of already very happy of squatting 300 pounds. And if you're gonna like go for like a 500, 600, 700 pounds or whatever, there's an increased risk, especially if you get competitive and stuff. But that's not where most guys are gonna go. So most guys who are like doing regular training, if they lift with proper form from day one, I mean that decreases the risk a lot. And there's a lot of people who injure their joints. Like if you think of knees, a lot of people they injure their knees from running. A lot of people get back pain just from doing nothing. I mean my dad, he didn't lift weights, and he had 2 knee surgeries, shoulder injury and back injury. So that's from just doing his work at like some physical labor that he was doing when he was walking. And I mean I could make the argument there that he would probably not have those injuries, or would have been less likely to have those injuries if he had lifted weights. Because if you lift weights, the muscles are getting stronger, so they don't get so exhausted so quickly. If you're training for strength, of course, I'm talking about. So the muscles are stronger, they don't get exhausted so quickly. So if you have like some physical labor kind of job where you have to bend over all the time and pick up stuff, well, you're going to be more likely to do it with a straight back, where you're injuring your back less, because your muscles are not getting tired so quickly, so you can do it with proper technique longer. So I mean that would be another reason. I think an important reason, if you're at a level where you're thinking also about your health, where the ability of doing a deadlift, for example, with proper technique, with like 300, 400 pounds, that's an ability that you take with you when you do another activity, but that like moving furniture or something like this. And that would be kind of like Nassim Taleb's anti-fragile approach to life, to have something like this.
So all this training is transferable into everyday. It's like functional movements, right? Yeah.
Now
So
it's very general. So I went rock climbing yesterday, and I lift weights. So of course, like the arms can take it, the legs are take it, but finger strength isn't there. So you could see like that's what's giving at first, because I don't have the specificity. But the general strength is there from doing, because that's what you're building in the gym. You're building general strength where everything is getting stronger through those compound exercises, which of course the specificity on the squats and the bench and the deadlift, because that's what you do a lot. But yeah, it transfers. So I'm doing rock climbing and I can use the strength that I have there, just with a little bit of, these positions I don't train at in the gym, so I don't have it. But yeah,
you're only as strong as your weakest link, right?
Yeah.
So what is the advice you'd give someone? What do you think about online training in terms of fitness, or personal training in terms of in-person? Which one's better in your opinion?
Well, what would be like? That's a hard question to answer, because I kind of like, on one hand I think that nothing beats the personal still, but the technology. So yeah, I work with technology, of course. So the technology is so getting better and better that there's probably going to be no difference like quite soon, I think. A personal trainer, so usually I think usually the way this works is that with a personal trainer, he's always going to be there. So I'm looking at a scenario of so somebody would do my program. The challenge he's going to have, for example, is how do I do my squats properly. So having a personal trainer right there next to you, who's looking at you doing your set, and while you're doing your set, he's giving you advice on your technique, He's when you finish your set, he's telling you, okay, that was good, that was not so good. You're not gonna get that live feedback with online training usually. I mean, at least I wouldn't do it if I would do online training, because it's a bit hard to scale something like this if you have to be live during the. Usually, how it happens is he has to record the videos and then send it to the client, and then he gets a review afterwards, which is good. I mean, you're also going to improve, but it's not going to be live. He's not going to be able to fix it.
But it's like the next best thing, right?
Exactly. So I have like yesterday, I have a friend who he's lifting weights, and he was calling me in the middle of his set, and he's a very good friend, so he was calling me in the middle of his set, and he put the camera and I could see him squat, and I gave him feedback like this. Now for a friend I will do this, but for a customer, I mean, you cannot do this. For how many customers can you do this before things gets crazy? So it's hard to scale something like this. So I would say this for a personal trainer is a bit of an. I would say also for like the mental aspect. So I'm training with my girlfriend there right now, and she's been she's already been at it for like 2-3 months now, the lifting weights, and so there's all these small mental things that I don't know how you would catch that online, but it's just like when you how to say this, like when you see that she can do the weights, she can lift this, but so here the scenario was, for example, she takes the weights out of the rack, so she does a squat, she gets under the bar, she walks it out, and her reaction is like, whoa, this is heavy, and that's already like a bad start, like, because she's being crushed like mentally before she even starts, and she actually did it for 5 reps, so it's like mentally she's like, whoa, this is heavy, but then the body can do it,
right?
So I don't know how I would catch that online.
Okay, so right there, what would you tell someone? Let's say someone tells you that. They're like, oh, Medhi, look, I took the weight off the bar, took up 2 steps back, and then I was just like, oh man, this is so heavy, and I only got 3 reps or whatever, right? Your girl got 5 reps, but let's say they only got 3 reps because they thought the weight was so heavy, and I've been there before. So what would you tell someone if they actually told you that online, for example? Well, what would you tell them how they should like reframe their mental, the way they're approaching it?
But it's supposed to be heavy. It's weight. So the first thing is like, this is normal. So my heavy weight also feels heavy. It's not like, like. So I was at a seminar once, and the power lifter Ed Cohen was there. So Ed Cohen is like Yep. Yeah, he's so if you don't know, so Ed Cohen is kind of like Michael Jordan of powerlifting. He won for many years and stuff. And this guy, he squatted. So back in the days, he squatted 1,000 pounds, which is like 450 kilos or something like this. And I was at a seminar, and he was giving like this presentation about powerlifting. And somebody asked him during the Q&A, Eddie, you've been lifting for so long, so 1,000 pound squat, how does it feel to squat 1,000 pounds? And he said, well, what's your max? And the guy said, I don't know, like 400 pounds. And Ed Cohen said, my 1,000 pounds feels like your 400 pounds.
Right.
And that's it. Like her 90 pound squat feels like my 400 pound squat. And when you can squat 500 pounds, then your 400 pounds feels of course easier. Like the only way that the heavyweight is gonna feel easier is if you get stronger. So I guess the answer there is that it's normal, it's heavy, and that's you just gotta get used to training heavy.
But I guess so. Like Ronnie Coleman back in the day, he would tell himself, "It's lightweight, baby." Like, is there any mental tricks that you do?
If it works, I mean, this is not my style. I'm more like, if you look at my videos, I'm more like a quiet lifter. It's more like I keep it inside. The way I approach this is that I just acknowledge. So I also have sometimes where there's fear coming up. So that is also normal. There's this book. The book is bad, but the title is just really good. The book is called "Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway." The book is really bad, but the title says it. So you feel the fear and you just do it anyway. So sometimes I approach a heavy squat, and I can feel like the fear. What my coach, Mike Tushirer, and he's a good friend of mine. Like he gave a presentation once at the seminar we did, and so he was talking about like deep breathing. So that's what Mike does a lot, and that's also what I do a lot. So if I really feel this fear, I will just like, so do this a couple of times, and this kind of like calms you down, and then go to the bar and do it. So you just like do 3, 4, 5 deep breathing, trying to like just empty your lungs. You go to the bar and then you do it. So that's one way to kind of like overcome the fear. And other than that, yeah, it just, you're trusting the process. So I go to the gym consistently. I do my training consistently. I focus on doing with proper technique consistently. So if all of that is okay, when I put a heavy weight on the barbell, I will be able to lift it. And I make sure that when I lift a heavy weight, that I lift it with the same technique, because that's like for the injury part. What gives you confidence is ability, and ability comes from using proper form. Like, you're gonna feel way more confident if you can lift it with proper form, because it feels safe, and then now you can lift heavier weight as a result, and that gives you even more confidence. And so that kind of like grows your ability to deal. That grows your confidence to deal with like the fear. Yeah.
There's a lot of people that, especially nowadays, they like to have things now, right? Instant gratification. So they will start a program, they'll do it for a month, and then they quit, right? You've probably seen this with your program as well. So what would you tell people who are looking to get their body right, like going into the new year? What would you tell people to do and have as a mental mindset to actually get the results for once in their physical body? Because maybe they've tried stuff before, but they've given up because they look in the mirror after a month and they're like, oh fuck, still got the belly fat, oh fuck, still not getting that strong. What would you tell these people?
Well, it's cliche, but I mean, there's the obvious. How long did it take you to become like this? And do you really expect you're gonna undo that? I mean, you're like a 30 years old guy. Let's say you've been inactive for the last 10 years, so you lost a lot of muscle from doing nothing, just sitting on the computer all day, never doing any activity, eating bad food. So now you gain 10 pounds and you get no muscle, you're weak. So you're gonna undo 10 years of this in like 10 weeks. That's just not gonna happen. So I think for everybody who starts out, you really need to think about 1 year. Like, you need to think about, I'm gonna do this for 1 year, and I'm not gonna give up for 1 year, because the real results are gonna happen for one. I mean, if you look at it, like if you look at the science, like muscle is basically 2 pounds a month that you can gain.
Yeah.
So that's like 2 pounds per month is nothing. Like 3 months is 6, and there's no way to accelerate this naturally. Like, there's no program where you're gonna gain more muscle. There's only one way, it's to take steroids, which some people, they choose to do that way. I don't like that way.
Me neither.
But otherwise, I mean, you stuck on the only way that you're going to be able to get to those 25 pound of muscle, and 25 pound muscle, people will see this. People will see a big difference if you're gaining 25 pounds of muscle, but that takes a year. And the only way you're going to get it is by whatever program I cannot say whatever program, because of course there's some program. For muscle, it should be something barbell related with compound exercises. I like my program, of course, but something with compound exercises, with using barbells. I mean, with dumbbells and kettlebells, you're not gonna get there. It's just not the same. Not with machines either. Like something with free weights, barbells, compound exercises. You do that for 1 year, a program like this, you're gonna gain 25 pounds of muscle. So now, if you know this, if you accept this as a given, so now what you gotta do is you gotta be consistently like hitting the gym 3 times a week for a full year. That's like the mission, and you can. That's 150 workouts that you gotta do. If you do this, you're gonna be 25 pounds muscle more in a year. If you're a woman, let's say it's half that, 12 pounds. And then tracking is also a big one, because a lot of people, they're improving but they don't know it, because I think they don't know it because they have expectations where they think it's going to happen overnight. And I mean, I've been in this business for like 10 years. I've been training for 20 years, and I mean, even I get a little bit impatient sometimes. So with the girlfriend, for example, I'm like looking at her and I'm like, this is slow there. But I know that even I'm gonna have like these biases. So we're taking pictures, and so you just take pictures every 2 weeks, and then with Photoshop and stuff, whatever, you can cut it out and put each picture next to each other so you can see the progression. And it's like, wow, she's changing, but you don't notice. And so that's another thing, making sure that you're actually taking body measurements, strength on the bar, to actually see yourself progressing. But the consistency is the most important one. Yeah. Realistic expectations that it's going to take 1 year, and then if it takes 1 year, the consistency is the most important one. If it takes 1 year, because you're never going to get there without being consistent. And
yeah, it's interesting because a lot of people, they don't have this commitment going into it. They don't have this reality check, if you will, that this is not going to be a 3-week fix.
Well, unfortunately, nobody wants to hear 1 year. So
that doesn't really sound sexy. It doesn't really sell.
Maybe somebody's already. I'm sure some people are checking out. They're like, 1 year. They don't want to hear that. Yeah, I would want to tell you something else, but I didn't make up the rules. So this is unfortunately what it takes. And we have also this culture where people are being shown these, like actors and stuff, where they're seeing like these quick changes, and I think that sets a lot like the unrealistic even like the unrealistic expectations of what you are supposed to look at, because some people, you're not gonna look like Arnold Schwarzenegger after 1 year, of course. Like, you're gonna have.
Yeah, and also I was just gonna add in there, we don't actually know for a fact what those actors who took 3 months and packed on all that muscle did, right? We don't actually know.
Yeah, it's just not, it could be, of course, if you're having like several millions on a attached to being in a certain shape, that's definitely a big. We know it happens in sports. We know in sports like top athletes, their steroid use, because if there's a difference between being first place or second place, and that's your whole career, that's like huge motivators to do that stuff. So you can think that with acting, actors are gonna have the same stuff. But even if it's not that, like, you don't know what the history is. You have, like, for example, what's the actor's name again? Batman Begins. What's his name again?
Christian Bale.
So this guy played in American Psycho, and you could see in American Psycho, like, he was playing like this playboy kind of figure, well built and the whole thing. So he was, of course, lifting weights there, and then you saw him for that other movie, The Machinist, where he became very skinny, and then for Batman he was, like, in a very short amount of time be able to gain a lot of weight, but the before after picture was Machinist, where he was super skinny, against Batman, where he was of course, like, bulked up. But we removed the first picture before that, from a couple of years before, where he played in American Psycho, and where he was already, like, you could see he had already been training for a while. So it's not like this guy went from skinny to bulked up. He went from already training to losing a lot of weight, and then gaining the muscle back. So, that's muscle memory. How many of those actors have been training for a while, they let themselves, you or me, we stop training for a year and we get back into it, you're gonna get the muscle back a lot faster than somebody who starts out. So that's another thing that's going on, that kind of like gives this good person. And then, of course, there's the whole genetic stuff where
I love this topic.
There's, of course, some guys. I had a friend back in the days that I trained with, and the guys had abs, and he was well built before he started going to the gym. So, of course, when he started going to the gym and he started, like, training, you couldn't keep up with him. You got to compare yourself with your own, like, past, and not with. I can look at other people and say, oh my god, he squats so much. I cannot squat that, but I'm looking at, I couldn't do a push-up. That's where I'm coming from. You gotta compare yourself with yourself.
Yeah, so we're not gonna. Well, we should just dive into it. Why not? Let's just talk a little tiny bit about genetics. what do you think about genetics? Because I believe people use the genetic argument as a reason for them not working out, right? It's like, oh yeah, I haven't got genetics for that, so therefore I'm not going to even bother.
So, like, I have very long arms, so my arms are very long. So when I bench press, it's gonna suck, because the barbell just has to travel longer. On the other hand, those same arms on a deadlift is really good, because the bar doesn't have to go so high. So there's an advantage on one and a disadvantage on the other one. But now, okay, the cards have been dealt with. What do? I don't bench. I only deadlift, because you just you try to do with what you have to do. So yeah, it's kind of like a defeatist attitude. I think it's okay to accept like limitations. So if I have long arms on the bench press, well, I can pretty much forget about ever achieving a world record bench, because if you look at world record benchers, they don't have long arms. So there's like self-selection that happens at that high level, where the people with long arms are just being filtered out because they just don't make it. But the average guy is not trying to become world class, champion bench presser. So it doesn't matter for him. Like, he can get to 100 kilo bench press fine, even if he has long arms. Like I can bench 100 kilo. There's no problem. So my point is that even if you have some genetic things which are holding you back, that doesn't mean that you cannot do anything about it. That doesn't mean that you cannot improve. Now, does it mean that you will never be able to get the highest level where you're breaking records and whatever? Yeah, of course. But that's not necessary for most people. That's not what they're after. So yeah, it doesn't matter. But yeah, I think yeah, some guys are looking for an excuse, and it's an excuse, just like the other excuses. I don't have time. I don't have, sore grapes is also one. Well, it doesn't look good muscle, something like this. Why would I build muscle? It doesn't look anyway. It doesn't look good anyway. So you have all these kinds of things that people will say in the end. Yeah, I don't have a lot of. If you really want it, you just do it, and that's it. Like, I don't really care. Like, if you want to lose weight, you want to build muscle, you want to get stronger. So, you just do what matters. It doesn't really matter. Like, if you have like good genetics, or my nose is too big, I cannot overhead press.
Right.
So whatever.
Yeah, I think people make out so many excuses to justify why they shouldn't do it. Right? It's like I don't know, man. They just don't want it bad enough, right? And that comes back to how you started working out, because you started working out because you had a reason to. It wasn't because you just wanted to. It's because you've experienced some pain, and you're like, damn it, I don't want to experience this pain anymore. Let me start doing some push-ups, right? Yeah. So I think people will have to get to that point where they experience pain. Maybe they have bad knees and they need to improve, right? They need to strengthen their knees, for example, squats, and that's where their motivation will come from. Because a lot of people that I encounter, you probably do too, they say, oh, I don't have the motivation to work out, or I don't feel like I know what I'm doing in the gym. And that goes back to getting the coach, which we touched on earlier. But yeah, what do you think about the reason people need to work out? Because I believe that's the number one thing that you need to keep going to the gym consistently.
Sorry, the question is, why do you need to work out, or why do you need to keep going to work out?
Well, why is it important to form a really strong reason that's going to keep you working out consistently?
Yeah, you definitely need to have a reason to go to the gym and to do the thing. Because it's not always fun. That's the thing. Like, I really like going to the gym to a point. It's been 20 years now, and I didn't really have any breaks. So I've just been at it for like 20 years, like week after week. I don't think I've ever. I think I had a 6 weeks break one time or something, maybe twice. But other than that, I'm just training the whole year. And so of course it's not like it's every day, hey, gym happy.
Yeah.
There's days where I really don't feel like it, and where I don't enjoy it. Now overall, of course I enjoy it. And now I've been doing it a little bit too long, to a point where like there is no thinking about it anymore. It's just like, it's Monday, so I go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I have my specific days at specific times where I go to the gym, and it's just, and I organize my life around it. So it's like, if I have to make an appointment with somebody, I will say, well, I cannot at that time, and I will organize it after. I'm not changing the time where I go to the gym for that. Like, it's the other thing that has to change. So I've made this a high priority for myself in my life, and I know that for a lot of guys who start out, they go, for example, they work, and then after work they go to the gym, and then they, the colleagues say, hey, let's go have drinks, and he's supposed to go to the gym, but then he gets tempted, and then he goes having drinks. And so I'm the guy who wouldn't go. I would say, I gotta go to the gym. And of course, if you do it my way, after a while you become the guy who goes to the gym, and the colleagues know, oh yeah, he probably has gym. And of course, with my program, you only do 3 times a week, so you have 4 times to actually go do the other stuff with the friends. So you can go the next day. So yeah, that's the motivation. Where and I started like it was, I got attention for the girls, so I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get more attention. I mean, that's okay if you want to start out like some external thing, but eventually it has to be about yourself. Because otherwise, you have a lot of guys, they're kind of like the same situation. They want to have a girlfriend, they cannot have one. They want to like start lifting weights for that stuff, and then of course once they find a girl, then they stop going to the gym, because mission accomplished, until they get dumped, and then they're like, fuck, I gotta start again. Because you don't stop when you get a girlfriend. Just like she would get fat or whatever, suddenly, it doesn't. That's not. So yeah, it should be something. I mean, I know my motivation is like. So at this point, like, this is really like identity thing, where if I wouldn't go to the gym, I would kind of like feel very weird. Like if I would wake up in the morning and go in the bathroom, and I would see myself with like not having like abdominals showing, I would feel very weird about it, because I've been doing this for so long that this is just the image that I have of myself. So I would probably feel like shit if I would stop lifting. And yeah, for health, I just think it's kind of like you wash your teeth and you go to the gym. It's like you're supposed to do that stuff. You're not supposed to. Especially the work that we do, like it's a lot of like behind a computer and stuff. So you have to counter that with some kind of physical activity, which for me is going to the gym. So I mean, that's my motivation. It's mainly like at this point it's mainly like the health aspect. Like I don't even really care about I don't really look at my. I know I just said it, but that was like hypothetical. Like I don't really am focused on how I'm looking at this point.
Right.
Because the thing like form follows function. If you are training this way, the body is just gonna get a shape to do the activity that you're doing. In this case, it's like the lifting of the weights. So you need to have like some reasons, and some people it's like to escape from, like they've been embarrassed. I mean, I get a lot of these stories from people who they have been in a similar situation as me when I started out. They were embarrassed by in front of their friends. That's like something like there's also the guys who are like fed up. They're like they just it's been like 10 years that they've been having problems with, they can't get results, whatever, and they just reach a point where okay, they're fed up now. You have this a lot. You have also like the guys who get scared. They're like they go to the doctor one day, and there's like this checkup, and they're like, the doctor who tells them if you don't do anything about it, this is gonna happen. Or like their dad dies, somebody in the family dies, and it acts like a wake up call. It seems that acts like a motivation for some people. That kind of like triggers things. Yeah. But yeah, you have to find like a motivation for yourself in the end. kind of like going around the topic because I don't really know how to answer the thing, because I think the goal that I have is a little bit too far removed. Like the motivation that I have is going to be a little bit too far removed from most people when they start out, because it's a much deeper motivation of like thinking about general health. I mean, most people when they start out have a very more short-term thinking about the thing, which is there's something they want to accomplish, and this is the thing to get there, which I think is totally fine if you have like something like this. I'm just saying, like in the long term, if you want to make this a habit for like several years, you gotta make something else out of this eventually. Yeah.
I like what you said about long-term health, because that's probably the biggest factor, right? Because obviously as we age, our body, if we don't use it, gets worse, right? So it's like the whole, if you don't use it, you lose it. So a lot of people watching this, there's some people that they're not seeing the negative effects of not working out, therefore they're not working out,
well,
right?
Yeah. I mean, the joints, for example, like I said, not using the body is bad for your joints.
Yeah.
So when they're saying, people say lifting weights is bad for the joints, but you're not doing anything and sitting on a chair all day. That's very bad for the joints as well, for your lower back and stuff. So
Yeah, a lot of those people who say the lifting weights is bad for your joints, they're what we call the keyboard warriors. Just sit behind a computer, just talking shit about everyone. But it's important to note that what you said there, because you've literally turned a should. Most people say I should go to the gym, and you've turned that into a must. So it's, for example, this interview, we could have done it yesterday, but you're like, no, I'm going to the gym, which is cool because that's how I am too. So it's turning your shoulds into musts, and that's how you form the habit that you've been working out for 20 years now. So one of my last questions for you is, if you didn't have a fitness brand, right? If this wasn't your business, would you still be working out consistently every single week?
That's a good question. There's definitely like this there's like this thing of like, since you are like working in the fitness industry, and I've met people who work in the fitness industry who were not in shape, who were really didn't give a shit, which I find very strange, but I certainly have this thing that I feel like I have to just from a marketing perspective, I think I cannot understand I cannot understand people who are doing my thing if I'm not doing it myself. That's the whole programmer eating your own dog food. So I don't think I could do a good job at what I'm doing if I wasn't doing the thing myself as well. So following that, there's definitely that working in the fitness industry makes it, creates kind of like this extra motivation of you gotta walk the talk, walk the walk there. But the schedule is so flexible. I mean, I remember when I was employed more than 10 years ago, before I started doing all of this. The commute in the morning, like I was commuting 2 hours 30, and then there's so little time, and it feels like you're doing nothing, just working and commuting and going to the gym and cooking, and there's half an hour and that's it. That is definitely hard, but I remember I was very young, and I had colleagues who were like 40 and kids and stuff, and I remember looking at their life and thinking, oh, okay, I'm gonna run into problems if I stay in that kind of environment. I will not be able to stick to it, maybe, or I will have to do extreme things, which I know some people do, which is waking up very early before the kids are awake and stuff. They go to the gym and they come back. Personally, I hate waking up before 7 a.m. So I wouldn't like that approach. Now, if it's the only way, I guess I would do it. But I kind of organized my life to. I mean, this for me was kind of like, I remember watching, Pumping Iron and all that kind of stuff, and seeing how Arnold was living. He would go to the gym, and then he would kind of like have a nap in the afternoon and stuff. And I was like, man, that would be so cool. So I guess I kind of like, well, I'm not doing it really like this, but I have this nice day where I'm working in the morning like 6 hours, and then I can go to the gym in the afternoon, and my evening is free. So yeah, it is kind of like, you know, a privileged situation where it makes it easier. I can only I guess I'll answer it this way. So one of my friends, he had 2 jobs and he was working 14 hours a day. As a result, was sleeping very little, had 2 kids, and I mean, he had a hard time going to the gym. And I mean, there's only so much you can say there. You know, you cannot say to this person, you're lazy, if he says, I don't have time. He really doesn't have time. So there's only one thing. I mean, you gotta try to change the situation you're in, so that you can, because in the end, I mean, it's about the consistency and making this part of your life. So you gotta organize your life in a way that you can actually do this thing. These are deep changes, which usually it's, I mean, for me, this took several years, of course, to get there. So it can take a while to get there, but I mean, when you do this, then the rest will get easier. Because yeah, you know, you're gonna work 14 hours a day, you're gonna make more money, but then what? If your health takes a hit for it, and then what? So, I mean, the biggest reason to do this in the end should be about health. It's kind of like superficial to, you know, we're selling, of course, what they want. They want to look better, so okay, we can sell all that story, and of course that's what you're gonna get out of it. But it's kind of like superficial in the end. So it should be more about, you know, living in a good way and being healthy and all that kind of stuff. And so yeah, you're gonna have to organize your life in a way that fits inside it, so that you can actually stick to that.
I like that. Consistency, man. That's the one word that has been said a lot in this interview, and it's the key, right? Is fitting this into your life so it can be consistent in your lifestyle. That's it. That's literally it. So, is there any final closing advice you would like to give to people, anyone watching this, from Mr. StrongLifts himself?
Keep it simple. That's a big one, because many guys overcomplicate it. They overcomplicate it by doing too much, doing too complex things. I mean, the stuff, I mean, for me, this is very easy. This is very, easy is not the right word. It's like, it's very simple what I'm doing, and it's easy in the sense that, you know, I, like the way I look at it, I only go 3-4 times a week to the gym for an hour or something. I get in, I do the 3-4 exercises, I do them heavy, and that's it. Like, for me, it's very easy. It's not so many things, it's very simple. But a lot of people think there's more into it, and there isn't. So keeping it simple would be my big thing, yeah.
Yeah, and the final question is, can women do this too? Because a lot of women think that they can't. Can they do it?
So I'm a guy, and because I'm a guy, I can identify myself with guys' situation much better. So I get emails from women and they ask me, I'm pregnant, I have never been pregnant. So it's very hard for me to give some personal perspective on this. But yeah, it works for women also. So yeah, my girlfriend has been at it for 2 months now. Her deadlift is now at 50 kilo, and her squat at 40. She was struggling with the empty bar, a 15 kilo bar in the beginning. So on 2 months she's been progressing nicely. And you can already see, of course, form follows function, so you can see already the difference in her body is changing as well. So yeah, it works for a woman also. But awesome. The website has a lot of language towards males, just because I'm really writing towards the male from a male perspective. But it works for a woman also. Yeah.
Oh, awesome! So Medhi, where can people find out more about you?
So the website is StrongLifts.com. If you go there, you will find the Strong 5x5 routine. So there's a lot of like long form articles which are very in depth. I spend a lot of time writing it out. The idea is there that I wanted to make a website that when I started out, I didn't have the information. And so the idea is there, I'm going to make a website so that the website that I wish I would have when I started out, where everything is explained on the proper technique of the exercises. The whole training program is explained on it as well. So you can find the training program, the technique for all the exercises. Is basically, there's a book on there about how to do it with images and the whole thing. And then going a step further, so you can also download the app from the website, the StrongLifts app, And that app, it does two things. It's gonna keep track of your workouts so that you remember what you did each time. So you don't need pen and paper anymore, no notebook anymore. You can just use the app. And then it will tell you what to do next time based on what you did last time. So it tries to coach you as well, so that you break through plateaus and get results. So StrongLifts, yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, check it out, guys. Medhi is the OG in the game when it comes to everything about barbell training and, you know, just having a strong physique. All right. So that's why he's my friend, because we have the same mindset when it comes to training. And yeah, you guys check him out. And Medhi, thank you very much, man.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been awesome. All right, guys. See you in the next one.